This is Algebra Credit Recovery Unit 13. The graph of quadratic function h is shown on the grid. Answer the following questions about the quadratic function h. So to start with, it says number 1, what is the vertex? Well, the vertex is either going to be the highest point or the lowest point, okay, also known as a minimum or a maximum. So on the vertex, I'm just going to find that point, which is -2, 9. What is the maximum value? Well, the maximum value is the y value. So the maximum value here is 9. What is the line of symmetry? The line of symmetry is the same thing as the axis of symmetry. So this is going to be x equals, it's the x value of our vertex. So x equals -2. And where that falls at is right here on the graph. That's our axis of symmetry. What is the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, and to locate that, it is at 0, 5. And the domain of quadratics is all real numbers, and so that looks like this. But if we do it in function notation, it's from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, what is the range of graph h? Well, range is your y values. And so here my range is going to be y. I'm using the y value of the vertex. And then I'm looking, is my graph greater than 9 or is it less than 9? Well, if you notice here that our graph opens down, so it's going to be less than or equal to 9. Number 7, what are the roots to the function? Well, roots are just your x-intercepts. So I can see that on the graph. And so my x-intercepts are at -5 and at 1. So I can say x equals -5 and 1. If it asks for x-intercepts, then you have to write it as an intercept. So it'd be -5, 0 and 1, 0. Number 8, which function best represents the function? Well, the easiest thing to do would be to type these in the calculator. And so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate 2 of them because this is a function that opens down, and any function that opens down is negative. So automatically I'm canceling out C and D. And then I'm going to look at A and B in the calculator and see which one looks most like my graph here. So -x² plus 4x plus 5. Okay, if I look at that graph, I need most of my graph to be on the left. Okay, and here most of my graph is on the right. Okay, that's opposite of what I have. So far I do not think it's A. I still need to check B to make sure that that's correct. So B is -x² minus 4x plus 5. And again, I'm looking for my graph to be mostly on the left side. And this one is, and I have a root at 1 and -5, so B is the equation for that function. Number 9, what is the vertex of the quadratic function? G of x equals x minus 3 squared plus 2. So it gave me this, and I'm going to go ahead and type it in exactly how I see it. So I'm typing in that into y1. So parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 2. Okay, this asks for my vertex. So when looking at the graph and doing this in the graph, your vertex is going to be your minimum or your maximum. So here looking at this graph, it opens up. So I have a minimum value. So I'm going second trace. I'm going to go down to the minimum, which is number 3. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where I think the minimum is. Okay, so I think the minimum is right there, so now I'm going to move to the left side and press enter. I'm going to go ahead and move to the right side of it now and press enter. When it says guess, I press enter one more time, and it gives me my minimum is at 2.999983 and 2. So 2.999 is going to round to 3. And then my y value is 2. So 3, 2 is where my minimum or my vertex is. So it's that bottom point on your graph. Number 10, what is the axis of symmetry? So again, the axis of symmetry is the x value of my vertex. So I need to go ahead and find the vertex of this one as well. So I'm typing it in exactly how I see it. So if it has parentheses, I'm putting parentheses. And now looking at the graph. So again, I'm looking for the minimum or the maximum because that's the vertex. This one opens up, it's positive, so I have a minimum value. So second trace minimum, which is number 3. I'm moving to where I think the vertex is, and then I'm going to start. So I'm going to go to the left side. I'm going to move back again to the right side. And then I'm going to press enter. And it tells you my minimum is at 3.0, repeating in -4. So my minimum is at 3, -4. But because it's asking for the axis of symmetry, it's just asking for the x value. So x equals 3 is my axis of symmetry. Number 11, what is the domain of the function? Well, anytime you see something squared, okay, we know that it's going to be a parabola. And the domain of parabolas is -infinity to +infinity. Okay, another way that you might see that is all real numbers. 12, what is the solution set to the equation? So it gave me an equation in set equal to 0. So there's two ways we can solve this. Okay, we can type this in the calculator, or we can solve it by hand. Okay, I'm going to show you typing it in the calculator. So I'm typing in x squared minus 16, and what we're looking for are the roots. Type that in wrong. X squared minus 16. Okay, I'm looking for the roots, or the zeros, or the x-intercepts, whatever you want to call them. They're all the same thing. So I'm going to number 2 because it's the 0. The first thing I'm going to do is move to where I think my x-intercept is. When I get there, I'm going to go left 3, and then right 6. Once it says guess, you press enter, and I get my first 0 is at -4. Because it asked for the solution, I can say x equals -4, and now we're going to find the other one. So second trace 0, I'm moving over to where I think it is. Once I get there, left 3 and right 6. And I get that 0 to be at 4. If you sketch a picture of your graph, that's what it looks like. Number 13, what are the zeros for 3x minus 6? Okay, remember zeros are just your x-intercepts. And we can do that all in the calculator. So, typing in 3x minus 6, looking at the graph. Okay, this is linear, this is a line, and so I'm only going to have one 0 because I only have one x-intercept. So second trace 0. Okay, I'm getting close to it. I'm going to go left 3 and right 6. And I get my 0 is at x equals 2. If you want to sketch a picture of that, you can show this is a line, and therefore there's only one 0. Number 14, what are the zeros of 3x squared minus 6? Okay, so it looks very similar to the last one, except this is a quadratic, and so we should have two zeros. If I look here, I can clearly see the two of them. And I get 1 is at -1.414. And the other one is at +1.414. The quadratic function 2x squared plus 4x minus 8 is graphed on the grid below. Answer the following questions about the quadratic. So because it gave us a picture, I don't really have to do any of this in the calculator. So what is the vertex? Remember, your vertex is your minimum or your maximum. Here it's my minimum. And that point is -1, 10. What is the minimum value? The minimum value is your y value of your vertex. So my minimum value is 10. What is the axis of symmetry? Axis of symmetry is going to be x equals the x value of the vertex, so -1. What is the y-intercept? Okay, I'm locating that on the graph. It's where it crosses the y-axis, and that is at 0, -8. What is the domain? Domain of quadratics are -infinity to +infinity, because domain is your x values, and this has arrows, so left to right is going to continue going on forever. What is the range? The range is y, and it's the y value of your vertex. And I'm asking myself, is my graph greater than, that should be -10, greater than -10, or is it less than -10? Well, this opens up, so it's greater or equal to -10. And between what two integers are the roots? Okay, so the roots are your x-intercepts. And here's one root, and here's the other root. So it's asking between what two integers, so what two numbers? Okay, so my first root is between -3 and -4. And my second root is between 1 and 2. That is it for Credit Recovery Video Unit 13.